Welcome, world, to Manage Your Damn Money. I am here with my co-host, Mr. Malcolm Etheridge. Malcolm, what's going on? Another week.
Everything, man.
Everything's going on, man. We got Hurricane Irma on her way.
Right, that typhoon outside almost kept me from getting here, but I made it.
Absolutely. Hurricane Irma, the latest hurricane to get a real attitude and is heading towards the eastern seaboard. Also, this past weekend, just in life news, Malcolm, thank you for the invite from me and my wife to your girlfriend's birthday event this past weekend. That was really nice.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Indeed.
Well, it wasn't my birthday, but I'm glad
It
you
felt
guys
like
got a chance to get out and,
It felt like a choice from you because it was a whiskey bar tour, but you said it wasn't.
No, that actually wasn't like my push for, I'm not a big birthday person.
Okay.
So I don't push, anything. But, it's pretty cool.
I want to share this with you. The thoughts that go through my wife's head as we're there.
Uh-oh.
She's looking around, we walk in, and she sees people with cameras. She's like, "Do you see all the cameras? I think tonight might be the night." I'm like, all right, chill out.
What night?
The night. All right, we just gonna act like Malcolm doesn't know what we're talking about. What other night could it be?
I'm sorry, Ben.
All right. Anyway, he's just gonna leave me out here hanging with the joke. Other people are laughing, which means they get it. Tasha gets it.
You should have given me a heads up that that's what you meant.
No, it's supposed to be a surprise. That's the whole point.
I'm sorry.
Oh man, you ruined it. Anyway, we want to remind people that you're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. Today's conversation at hand in this episode, understanding the business of creativity. And we actually have two very special guests on today, Miss Tasha James and Chris Kane. They are the founders of Hey Bulldog Studios, and they have service clients like Chipotle, Bud Light, and Smoothie King with their creative business. We're going to get into that in a little bit. So we're excited to talk about them, and they're actually like a real live couple who they've been together a while. So we're going to talk about how they manage the two, like they're in business together and in relationship together. I don't know if that's is that weird to say?
I mean, they're a married couple who have a business together, like that.
Are y'all married?
Anybody who's dealt with being a couple for more than 6 days understands how those dynamics can have to be.
The married guy in here got a lot of palms sweating. I need to stop. Anyways, before we move on to any of that, as we always do, we got to go to headlines. Millennials say anxiety about money is literally killing them. And in this story that Malcolm sent me and we kind of went over, a September 2017 MarketWatch article by Maria La Magna explores the way personal finance concerns are affecting millennials personally and in the workplace. The story kind of talked about a couple different scenarios and people. One of the scenarios brought up was Claudia Pennington, who is 32, said that she started to get serious about conquering her debt. She owed more than $200,000, and she and her husband, Garrett, who live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, owed $156,000 on their mortgage, plus $16,000 in credit card bills and $36,000 in student loans, which is a pretty hefty bill. At the time, she said she was, quote unquote, worried about money, she said, and found herself constantly checking their debit balance and the amount in their checking account, which is definitely something can happen when you're anxious about money. And then it even affected her work. She said, "I tried to toe the line at work." She worked in somewhere where she did marketing before she became self-employed. She said, "I didn't want to make waves for fear of losing my job, even though I had some suggestions for how to improve things." So that's an interesting thing, Malcolm. In your work as a financial professional and financial planner, do you find people are stressed about work ever? Stressed about work as it pertains to money?
Not as much, because I don't have very many clients that are even close to that millennial age bracket. Mm-hmm. And so I guess by the time you're in your 40s or 50s, you've pretty much, kind of figured out where you are headed.
Right.
But, I guess everybody to some degree has their anxiety about work, with the simplest version being will this job still be here tomorrow?
Right.
Because that's, definitely one that, could cripple people if all of a sudden you wake up tomorrow, you get an email that says, "Don't bother coming in. The company doesn't exist."
Right. Absolutely.
That kind of thing.
Absolutely. And then we have in the story, it went on to say that more than a quarter of millennials say financial stress affects their job performance. over twice the rate of the general population who feels that way, according to a study of more than 2,000 people released in August by an insurance and financial planning company, Northwestern Mutual. Financial anxiety also has made about a quarter of millennials feel physically ill, according to the study, and has made more than half of those people feel depressed. Another person in the story mentioned was Cara Perez, a 29-year-old living in Austin. She said she felt sick because of her anxiety about money when she graduated from college in 2011 with more than $25,000 in student loans, what I would do for just that amount. And then she was unable to find full-time work and worked various part-time jobs, including as a caterer and a receptionist. I remember those days working at Sunglass Hut with a master's degree. Those were fun. And then Perez also said that she remembers crying a lot of times, and she felt she was, quote unquote, swimming in the sea of anxiety. The story went on to say that 69% of the survey said they experienced anxiety because of their income, 67% said it was because of their level of savings, and 53% said it was because of their worry about losing their job, which is kind of what you alluded to, Malcolm.
So that part about it affecting your performance at work is extremely dangerous. And like, I have friends and contacts in the human resources business, and whenever I bring up the topic of the employer doing some things to help, like, quell those fears by helping your people become more financial literate,
right,
and the company actually putting some dollars toward helping folks like manage their money,
right,
I kind of get scoffed at.
Really?
And it's interesting to me because I'm like, your productivity could be helped tremendously by you spending a couple extra dollars and helping your folks learn how to do things better. Because, think about the sleepless nights that folks have behind the anxiety, the numbers that you just went through.
Absolutely.
That alone, if folks aren't sleeping properly, you getting 4 hours of sleep instead of 8, or
you're
2
dragging
instead
at work
of 8, or whatever. The last thing you're thinking about is, working beyond 12 p.m.
Right.
So just something as simple as that could help productivity. But it's interesting how many companies are kind of like,
that ain't my spot.
That's not my problem.
That's not what I do.
So
absolutely. It's interesting. This talked about anxiety, and I remember my entire, or at least a good portion of my childhood was spent in anxiety about money. I think just
your childhood,
my childhood, legitimately,
really,
not necessarily for any factors like at home all the time, but just because that's who I was. Like, I've told the story before. I can remember being like 6 and thinking, I want McDonald's, but I don't want to ask for it because I know it costs money. So that's always been something that's been with me, and I've had to learn personally how to like put that in a box and put it in its place, because a lot of times your worry and concerns about money are not things that could be solved immediately by anything that you can do in that moment. So it's best to just kind of like relax and let it go and kind of just try to make changes and adjustments along the long term.
I think that's just something that comes with age.
That's true.
Like, you just eventually develop the wisdom to realize, like, yes, all of that terrible stuff just happened to me, but I'm still here.
Right, absolutely.
And whether that relates to you, like, emotionally, relationship-wise, your job, whatever it is, like, it takes time to really realize, like, yes, that situation just happened, or it's happening, period, but I'm still here.
Right.
Like, yes, I'm behind on my student loan payments or whatever. And it's terrible because they keep sending me letters and emails and calling me and calling my mom and my dog and everybody else.
And it's uncomfortable.
But you can't get blood from a stone, right? So they can scream and beg and shout all they want, but like, if I only have $5, I can't give you 10. So I'm still here. Right? You know what I mean? So I think some of that goes into it as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's interesting. In financial planner school, or whatever it is that you do to become a licensed financial advisor.
Okay.
Is there anything other than like the age part and the wisdom part that can help you manage the feelings that come along with the uncertainty of work, of a job, of income, et cetera, et cetera? Like, is there anything that they teach you?
Well, I mean, I first of all, I appreciate the plug, because that does, like, that does kind of lean my way a little bit. Like, that actually is part of the reason that you want to find a financial advisor or a financial planner or whatever you call them, regardless of whether that is a person who is a trusted friend who actually does know what they're talking about, or if that person is a professional who you pay. Having somebody to kind of walk you through like the psychological pieces of managing your money, to help talk you off a ledge, if nothing else, is like, it's not something that's tangible, the value of that, but it's there. You know what I mean? So I yes, to answer your question, in the additional schooling and certifications and everything else that I've attained, there are always components that teach you how to talk to your clients about like risk and how the emotions tied to risk are going to affect them one way or another, or how not having cash readily accessible tomorrow morning will affect somebody's psyche, and those kind of things actually go into you helping somebody construct their financial plan.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I definitely do think it's important to make sure that you do have somebody who knows a little bit of something that you can run those kind of scenarios by. I understand that most people in this day and age like to do everything online. Right. Kind of take the human effect out of a lot of life.
Absolutely.
But I do think that that's kind of where my profession, we do get a chance to kind of show our value, is just talking folks off of a ledge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we take a real quick music break, we have one more question here. Today's conversation at hand, understanding the business of creativity, which we'll get to after the music break. But while we're talking about anxiety and money, I wonder at what point because I have a specific thought on this, does your career trajectory have the potential to cause anxiety? And we'll actually talk a little bit about this later in the show, probably with our guest. But at what point do you think it felt very specific that you had anxiety about your career or which direction you were taking as an adult to earn a living?
So I think you touched on it when you mentioned being well overqualified for the job you currently have. I too have found myself in that position where I was looking around going, I'm way better than what I'm currently doing.
Sure.
Which then means I could be making way more money.
Right.
And way happier as a person.
Sure.
And I remember like that 4, 5, maybe 6 months of frustration that I went through, because part of it was just figuring out, all right, where am I going to pivot to?
Sure.
But then also, okay, how am I going to get there?
Right.
And so I definitely think that does affect your ability to like even think about anything else.
Right.
And your ability to kind of feel like fulfilled, I guess is the word.
Sure thing. I think especially at the outset of somebody's career, there's a potential to like be really uncertain because you're young. You don't really know how to get to where you want to go. In some people's case, they don't even really know what they want to do.
Right. Which is the worst part.
Right. And so that feels like a long sentence of not only career and income insecurity, but also just like an inability to be settled in what you're deciding to do and how what you're deciding to do is affecting your pockets.
Also, again, I keep bringing this back, and I know I'm going to sound like the old man in the room, but the Instagram effect. The fact that you, as a recent graduate, are looking on Instagram at your friends who you think have these fabulous careers that are allowing them to do all these wonderful things
every day.
And you go, I graduated with Ben. I got the same degree Ben has.
Right.
He's got all these fabulous things going on in his life, and I'm at home on the couch. Like, what's going on?
Right.
That right there helps to add to that anxiety and that feeling of, you know, I'm behind the 8 ball because I don't have whatever the person next to me has, my peer.
Absolutely.
Who, for all other intents and purposes, we're on equal footing.
Right. Absolutely. Well, some interesting thoughts on anxiety. We're going to take a quick music break here from our in-house producer, Mr. at Beats by Beeman. He is the executive producer and co-creator of Manage Your Damn Money. When we come back from our break, we're going to jump in today's conversation at hand, understanding the business of creativity. We have 2 wonderful guests, Tasha James and Chris Kane, who are going to talk to us about their business, Hey Bulldog Studios, and how they created and have continued to create income for themselves as independent creatives. We want to remind folks that you can always catch past episodes of Manage Your Damn Money on Apple Podcast. Just search Manage Your Damn Money on the Apple Podcast platform, and also find us on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Manage Your Damn Money. You can always find us on Facebook.com/Manage Your Damn Money. Of course, leave us a review on any of those platforms. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you're thinking. We're going to take a quick music break. We come back, conversation at hand, understanding the business of creativity. We will be right back. Welcome back to Manage Your Damn Money. That was another music track by our in-house producer, Mr. Beats by Beeman. You can find him and follow his music. Just spell it how it sounds on Instagram at Beats by Beeman. Manage Your Damn Money. Today's conversation at hand, understanding the business of creativity. In this age of easy access to technology and creative tools, it seems like everyone has taken up some kind of creative pursuit. Taking artistic photos for the gram, doing makeup for friends and family on special occasions, or teaching sip and paint classes on the weekend. But one aspect that is less often talked about are the mechanics behind how you turn creative pursuits into hard, cold cash. That's why we've invited Tasha James and Chris Kane, a couple of nearly 8 years, to explain how they've built their creative agency from the ground up. And before we actually have Tasha and Chris on, we thought we'd take a moment to define a little bit what we mean when we talk about creative endeavors and the creative economy. Malcolm, this is one of those things that can kind of be not really known what we're talking about. So
right, I appreciate you breaking that down for old people like me.
Right, because you sit in front of a computer and punch numbers all day. Real quick, interesting, when I was doing some research for this show, Emerson College, which is in Boston, Massachusetts, has a major called the Business of Creativity or something like that. I think I made a typo here. But essentially it's a major built around business of creativity. And so when I took a look at it, it said Emerson's major track, defines the creative economy as enterprises and people involved in the production and distribution of goods and services in which the aesthetic, intellectual, and emotional engagement of the consumer gives the product value in the marketplace. So that's like things that on their own have no value, but because the world or our feeling says it has value, it then makes the price go up. So I'm thinking like a painting or like the Mona Lisa. For whatever reason, culture said this painting is amazing because her eyes supposedly follow you across the room. I've actually seen the Mona Lisa, and I guess it did. I was also underwhelmed at the same time. So, but culture has conferred upon the Mona Lisa painting an amazing amount of value, and that's essentially what we're talking about. And then the major that we mentioned at Emerson College is for students interested in blending business strategy and creative vision, and who would also like to take a leadership or management role at an organization in the creative economy. And this actually just started because they were only accepting incoming freshmen for that program in 2016. So it's they just kind of opened their doors on that one. But the creative economy in real terms is a creative economy takes many forms in this day and age, but we thought a few of the areas of where millennials are making money as creatives and list some of the challenges with each. So the first one that I just kind of alluded to was artistry. So that kind of goes back to when we were kids. Right? Painting. Did you paint or anything, Malcolm?
I used to draw all the time.
Really?
I would get like a Slam magazine and just draw all the same pictures that were in the magazine.
Wow.
That was like my thing as a kid.
Can you still do it?
I don't know where it went.
It's in your mom's basement somewhere.
No, I mean that skill. I don't know where it went, but it was there once upon a time.
Very good. So like paintings, drawings, sculptures, or other fixed form arts are kinds of like an artistry that people use to sell. The challenges with that obviously are like production frequency.
Sure.
So if you're selling like original pieces, you would have to like be churning out stuff frequently to sell enough to make a living. And then obviously like marketing can be a challenge, made easier with our favorite platform, Instagram and Twitter, but still a challenge. And then obviously like convincing people that your sculpture, your painting is worth
that's the killer.
$150.
That is the killer.
That's the hardest part.
Because if I look at it and I go, I could recreate that at Sip and Paint for the price of admission plus a glass of Chardonnay.
Right.
Why am I going to buy yours?
Right.
So you definitely have a tough road ahead, at least for the first few that you sell.
Right.
Because then eventually, like, it's worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. Right?
Absolutely.
So after you've sold the first few, then you can justify it. But those first few are tough, I'm sure, because people like me who are skeptics who are like, I can do that.
Right. That ain't no talent.
Right.
And then some solutions to that in terms of bridging the gaps of income. I've seen people who I know who do arts, exactly painting and all that kind of thing. They teach classes, so whether at a university or teaching those Sip and Paint courses, that's a way to like set up income if that's
which
kind
is
of thing.
Genius to me.
Right. Teaching it?
Yeah. teaching the sip and paint to somebody like me, like I said, who's going to walk in and say, I can do this.
Right.
Teaching that class to that person.
Right.
It's easy income for you because you paint in your sleep, basically.
Right.
But it's not something that I would have the ability to go do, but I can pay.
Not only that, it's a marketing opportunity.
Yeah, that too. You might find somebody that falls in love with your ability, your painting ability. You get to display all your paint during the event. So,
Absolutely. Then obviously solutions, setting up online stores, selling recreated versions of original pieces. That's a big one. I know this one particular artist and friend of mine, Vanessa, who does art, and she had a real cool piece that I loved, but I couldn't afford to pay $500 for it. She actually made prints of the piece like as a T-shirt, and I bought that because it was like, all right, I can support the work in that way, as opposed to
I wonder
buying
how
the
much it
original piece.
costs to recreate your paintings, though.
I don't think a lot. I think
Like,
it's
if
very
I'm a
affordable.
starving artist, do I have the money that it takes to make 10 replicas of this thing that I just made?
I think with online services now, it's made very affordable, if not no money down, essentially, to have T-shirts or secondary products produced. All you need is like a JPEG image.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy.
I'll take your word for that one.
Absolutely. And then we're talking about the creative economy in real terms. Then we also, as we've talked about in previous episodes of Manage Your Damn Money, the art of social media content. So real quick, the challenges with social media content and becoming quote unquote Insta famous. A production process, having a production process that you can actually churn out content that people will like and enjoy on the platform. And then also, who is paying you? So like we've always talked about, like, are advertisers paying you? Are you getting like your audience to buy things from you? And then also having a large enough audience to create sales opportunities on either end of that is obviously a huge challenge.
So here's something I'm curious about real quick with the whole social media creativity thing.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about this as I was reading to like get ready for this show specifically. So this is a very recent thought. Are we past the point where social media manager or social media is like it's a thing where we've cornered the market because of our age?
What do you mean?
Like for example, when Barack Obama was running for president, 2008, social media was like just now becoming a thing. Like Facebook had been out like 5 years or something, right?
Okay.
So at the time, anybody who was young enough by default to be on those platforms was who automatically got hired to do the job of the social media manager of a political campaign.
Sure.
Like if you're the only 22-year-old in the room,
Right.
you got the job.
You get to do it.
Well, now we're like almost 10 years removed from that, right?
Okay.
And so now we've got a whole bunch of people who are born within that same the last 10 years
Right.
who again wake up every day with their cell phone in their hand and know how to do this job.
Right.
Are we at like peak social media manager at this point as far as who the talent pool is
Sure.
that's capable of doing that job? Is
Absolutely.
it like everyone else need not apply?
I think that's
If I'm in college today, right, and I'm 19 and I'm trying to decide what direction I'm going to go when I graduate, is it too late for me?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that
The two old men sitting here think we're on the downtrend of the social media.
Oh, you agree with me?
I do. I think we are at a near peak of,
Okay.
but that's an interesting question, Malcolm.
That's like that eclipse we just had. Like that might happen once every 38 shows. That's not like a
right. Where we agree. We want to remind folks you're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money. We're going to be talking to Chris Kane and Tasha James today. They are the co-founders and a couple. They have a creative studio called Hey Bulldog Studios. We'll talk to them a little bit about it, but we're running through some creative economy things that happen in real life. The last one we're going to get to really quickly, and is actually what Chris and Tasha will shed some light on, is creative services like photography, design, branding, and film services. And this is one that I've experienced myself, when I've done, consulting work in the past. Finding clients, that's a challenge. That's a huge challenge. Convincing clients of you're being paid a living wage, because everybody wants that kind of work for as low a rate as possible. And then also convincing clients you're worthy of the price that you quote them at. So that's a really big challenge. And then solutions to some of those things really quickly, obviously starting small and building up, utilizing referrals as much as you can, and then also establishing a wide client base, or basically getting as many clients as you possibly can. So those are some interesting things about, challenges associated with making money through creativity, as well as some light solutions. Before we take another music break, Real quick question for you, Malcolm.
Sure.
As I kind of mentioned before, value is conferred upon creativity in part by society and our collective value system. How can a person position themselves as a creative to actually make money in a world that doesn't always value or want to pay for that creativity? Like, what are some things that you can think of that a person could do off the top of your head to position themselves in ways that, like, oh, I'll pay $500 for that?
Well, like, so to give you a cliche as my answer first, like, cost is only an issue in the absence of perceived value.
Right.
So that means that, like, the Mona Lisa you're talking about, I don't know what the Mona Lisa is even worth, but I know it costs more than, I probably will ever have in my lifetime.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, that's how coveted the Mona Lisa is.
Absolutely.
But to your point, I look at the Mona Lisa and she's not that attractive to me. What are we paying? Like, is it a painting of Beyonce? Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. But because that perceived value is there, the cost is irrelevant at that point, right?
Absolutely.
So I think, for one thing, like you mentioned before, building up your following and building up your credibility using social media gives that implicit value before I ever even engage you to contract your services.
Sure.
So if I look at your social media and you've got 500, 5,000, 5 million people liking your stuff, incrementally, each one of those tells me something different about the value of that service that you're offering to me. So that's kind of one easy way. I don't know what it costs to put that much effort into it to build up those likes, but that online portfolio is a very easy one, because obviously for a visual product, the first place people are going is social media or your website. Does your website look like you actually put some work into what you're telling me you can do? That kind of stuff. And then eventually people come to know who you are because you've got all this work that you've done that you can display, that I can look at and go, oh, okay, well, he's legit. He's been doing this for 5 years and somehow managing to feed himself. He must actually be,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, excellent. And real quick, in a minute or less, Malcolm, you have clients, right? You have people who essentially pay you to do the work of managing a portion of their wealth and money. Right. How do you convince people? You're not necessarily a quote unquote creative, but you're creatively making money on people's money for people to grow their money. So how is it that you convince people to? That
was a deep wormhole you just went into.
Yeah, it was like several black holes at once.
But I get the question. So as you know, I consider myself a professional networker first. Okay. So what I mean by that is I'm not a person who, necessarily is going to just be blitzing every single person every chance I get, explaining to them how great I am of a financial advisor, even though, in my opinion, I'm a great financial advisor. Just throwing that out there. But I'm not a person who's like, every chance you get, like you were, over the weekend, we were in a social setting where just one time our show happened to come up, and I'll explain that on the other side of the break, because I got beat up a little bit. But I am a professional networker. I go everywhere people are that they are possibly going to be discussing anything related to what it is that I do for a living. Right. So I'm talking to real estate developers, I'm talking to attorneys, I'm talking to accountants, everybody on a regular basis. And my network at this point is pretty broad, in the sense that people call me to ask me for a referral to somebody else that has absolutely nothing to do with what I do for a living. Right. But just by having that much connectivity and that much communication with people, eventually what happens is they remember, oh, you know what, I know this guy who says he's a pretty good financial advisor, I'll introduce you. Right. And then it comes back that way. But then also, to the point you were making about somebody starting out in the creative space, an idea that I have that I've used before that works for me now is networking with someone who's way more successful than you are. Oh, wow. And so that person is more mature in the business. They probably are at capacity as far as what they can handle client-wise. Right. And so there comes this period where they come to recognize you as an equal and say, you know what, Ben has more free time than I do. Right. He's a great creative. Right. I'm going to send you to him because I value you and I like you, but I don't have the time to do what you're asking me to do because I'm already too big and I'm at capacity. but Malcolm's got free time. You know what I mean? Or capacity, I guess is the way to say it.
Excellent.
Networking with people like that who are willing to make those kind of referrals could be huge in someone's career trying to get off the ground.
You know what? That's excellent advice, Malcolm Etheridge, and I'm going to leave it at that. This is Manage Your Damn Money.
I'll invoice you for that.
Invoice our audience. When we come back, we're going to have Tasha James and Chris Kane, co-founders of Hey Bulldog Studios, talk more about their creativity and how they make money off of it. This is Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. We will be right back.
Now listen. Now listen. Now listen. Now listen.
Welcome back to Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. We are joined here in the middle by two wonderful people, Miss Tasha James and Chris Kane. How are you guys doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
Excellent. So the reason why we have you guys on today, you guys are the founders of Hey Bulldog Studios. Both Tasha and Chris actually lead clients in a variety of creative endeavors, including film, fashion, photography, and product campaigns. You guys have worked with some crazy names: Chipotle, Bud Light, Wawa, the sandwich place that everybody from New Jersey loves,
Jersey.
Teach for America, Avion Tequila, and that's not even the full list that Chris texted me last night. You texted me that list, I was like, wait, what? So good for you guys. So why don't you just give us a little introduction? We're talking about the business of creativity on Manage Your Damn Money today. What is your business at Hey Bulldog Studios, and how long have you guys been doing it? Tell us about the evolution a little bit.
Do you want me to start?
You can go ahead.
So Hey Bulldog Studios is our creative agency. We mainly specialize in photography and video projects, but it kind of ranges. We both have different backgrounds. I was a graphic designer. He was a web designer. So sometimes it kind of takes that route. It just really is kind of our baby, and we just sort of do what's necessary. But mainly we focus on photographic projects or video work.
Okay. And how long have you guys been doing it?
About 4 years.
4 years? Wow,
4
that's
years,
crazy.
yeah.
Okay,
It's a long
excellent. Next question. You guys are a couple.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys been dating for 8 years.
Yes.
So what? I think it's your anniversary soon coming
Yeah.
up. Happy anniversary in
Thank
advance.
you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell us how that happened. You guys been doing this for the business for dating 4 years, and then I guess it turned towards we both do these creative things. Tell us about how that happened.
Well, it started out as trying to do graphic design and web design.
Yeah.
That's what we started out to try to make it into the creative world. But then we realized that freelancing as web designers and graphic designers it was not something that worked out. So we took a step back, regrouped, and figured out something else that we were more passionate, had more fun about.
Okay. Excellent.
So, on that, were either or both of you working full time somewhere else for somebody else, or did you just jump right in out of school and say, you know what, we just want to do it our way?
Well, I was a graphic design freelancer while I was in school. So we both actually went to the same art school. That's how we kind of met. And then we ended up both working at Apple together. So we always knew each other as like creative, and we always kind of knew that, you know, he did this, I did that, but we, you know, always kind of shared those ideas. And, you know, like he said, eventually I worked for like, I was an admin assistant at like a government contractor, like something very far removed from being a creative. And I would always just do freelance stuff like on the side. And then he was still working at Apple, but you were doing a creative job at Apple. He was like getting to do sessions where he taught the clients how to use their computers, how to make movies, how to edit photos. So he had a very creative career at Apple, and I had a very not creative career.
Pushing them papers.
Pushing papers, 9 to 5. So yeah, then it just came to a point where we wanted to just do something, you know, on our own, and just sort of snowballed.
Yeah, the whole time it was, even when we were working at our jobs, it was, the end goal was to not work for someone,
Right.
to work for ourselves. That was the whole end goal. So we kept pushing for that. We kept getting meetings. We kept trying to push that creative freelance as graphic designer and web designer. And it just, the clientele and what you were mentioning earlier, like people want a bunch of stuff for not a lot of money.
For free 99.
So we're like, the amount of time that it takes to do something, we're like, no, we're rather not do that.
Right. Good for you.
That's awesome. Another question: who's the boss? Who's the CEO?
You've been determined to set somebody up all day.
It's what I do best.
Trying to ruin it. No, actually, I think it's our dog.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why our company is called Hey
Good
Bulldog.
answer.
Yeah.
Good answer.
He runs the show. Like
Family Feud clap.
we make sure that he's fed. That's how we get things done. So he
What's-
just tells us what to do.
What's the bulldog's name, by the way?
Winston,
Winston the
Sir
bulldog.
Winston, if we're being very correct.
Indeed.
Very
Yeah.
formal.
Indeed. So, what does a work day look like for you guys? Like, what? So people understand like what you guys are working on a day-to-day basis. What does a good work day at Hey Bulldog Studios look like?
I mean, I think it varies from day to day.
Why don't you give the answer you were going to give?
Which is what?
That starts with coffee.
Yeah, everything starts with coffee. That's where we start with
Okay.
coffee. From there, I try to write out my schedule, go through emails, and then
I would say, I think when you're in a creative field, you got to realize that your day isn't structured by someone.
Right.
So you just have to look at it as, okay, what's the task I need to get done?
prioritizing.
And then you go from there. So like if you're up at 1 o'clock in the morning working because you prefer to work at night at 1 o'clock in the morning, you don't have to answer to anybody. You just do that. So most days it's, she makes coffee and that's where it starts. And then
we see where it goes
Then
from
it-
there.
That's how you know it's time to clock in.
Right,
that's-
exactly.
It starts with coffee, and then from there we go. It's mainly dictated by Winston and what he needs,
Yeah.
and then
We all go outside for
you know,
bathroom, and then like yeah.
We don't all go to the bathroom outside.
I mean, however you want to take it.
Absolutely. Very good. So we talked about some of the clients on your client list are crazy. Like, talk to me a little bit about like just maybe if I'm missing some, and then two, how you found your window into some of those big names like Chipotle, Teach for America, Avion Tequila. Like, tell me about like condense that down into like how it's been done.
I would say the referrals is a big thing. We were referred to like the Teach for America by Beats by Beeman, and we that's how we got into a bunch of our jobs. And then the bigger ones, like bigger company named, recognized names, came from basically friends that work for other companies that help get you into.
Yeah, word of mouth referrals
Yes.
are big for
Okay.
us. Like that is
Huge
pretty much
thing.
how we build everything.
Okay.
Building relationships is big. We learned that kind of working at Apple. That was probably the biggest lesson that we went away with. And, you know, I'm very introverted, so it's very hard for me to kind of go out and like It is. It's very hard for me to like go out and like be very outgoing.
Right.
But you know, when you have a business, you have to network and meet people and make relationships. And that's like kind of the key, is not just like giving your business card out to anybody and everybody. It's you got to take a few minutes to like talk to people, and maybe it's not always about like business at first.
Right.
It could just be like, hey, I like your glasses, and like you know, and it can snowball from there. But you have to build like solid relationships, because they may not like come to fruition like right when you need it, like a week from now, but maybe like a year from now, somebody might hit you up and remember that, you know, oh, we talked about our glasses, you know, like, and I need a graphic designer or something. So it's really important to build relationships, and that's like definitely one of the things that we've used to progress and get, you know, clients and move forward.
Absolutely.
So is there anything like a mechanism or like a spoken or unspoken agreement that you guys use to actually balance the, you know, personal relationship with the business relationship? Because like I see neither one of you are dead, and you're 4 years into this thing, so you must have figured something out. So kind of share, you know, with us, in case we have anybody else who's thinking about starting a business with their significant other, sort of how you guys balance the two.
It's really hard at first, I think, because we have different work styles. I'm a perfectionist, so I think things aren't done until I'm like, okay, it's done. And he's very much like, no, like we need to take a break, we need to stop. Like he's very different from me in how we structure our time and how we work. So at first it was very difficult, because I'm just like, go, 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 go. And he's like, we can go, and then we can stop, you know, take a break.
Gotta pause,
because that's very important, especially as creatives. If you're not taking time to like take care of yourself, you can only go so far.
Right.
So we just kind of had to figure out a balance. We also figured out our roles within everything. I'm definitely more the, you know, photographer. If, you know, we're talking about like structure, like I love, you know, researching for shoots and getting everything together. I shoot, you know, primarily all of our photo shoots, and then he does a lot of the video work and all of the technical stuff, like the figuring out what cables go where. Like I don't have any type of, I have nothing to do with that.
Right.
So yeah, we just structured it, and that's like my biggest advice. If you're working with your significant other, if you're working with even like a friend, you just need to know what your roles are, where you can support each other, and then just try not to step on each other's toes, because
I would say even the bigger concept on that is both understanding what the end game is.
Yeah, the end goal is.
And if you both have the same end goal, then I guess like we do, we go at it differently, but we also understand where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
Like we're not like, okay, we're gonna do this at two different angles. We work together to try to get the same outcome. So
different strengths. Yeah.
Absolutely. We want to remind people you're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm. We're talking to Chris Kane and Tasha James, the co-founders of Hey Bulldog Studios. You got a creative studio that does video, fashion, photography, and a lot of other creative things. So tell me this, aside from networking, because we've hit on that, what's another piece that's really important when it comes to the art of selling your talent as a creative, such that people are willing to actually pay a living wage fee for that, so you can do the things like you need to do, like pay rent, save some money, et cetera, et cetera?
I would say you're not a photographer, you're not a videographer, you're not someone who just holds the camera, you're a person, and that you're the talent.
Ooh.
And that's kind of where we talk about this a lot. Like a lot of people will hire us because we have a camera.
Right.
They don't want our say, and I'm like, we're not a tripod. Like we are people.
That's interesting.
So it's understanding. It's understanding that like you're the thing that they're hiring.
You're the product.
Yeah, you're the product that they're hiring, and we provide a service, but we're the product. Like, you know, you come to us, and we could shoot it the way you want it to be shot.
Right.
But that would be very boring for us. So we tend to try to help out and try to grow that and give our expertise and our input in it. And I feel like if we didn't do that, we would just be a tripod. We would just be somewhat like a rental house.
Right.
And I think the way that we kind of show that, we use social media very frequently.
Okay.
I actually have a fashion blog. That's kind of where this started, right? So like when we were transitioning from being graphic designers to what we're doing now, a large part of that was because I had a blog that focused on fashion, and I really wanted to focus on editorial photography.
Okay.
And breaking into that field's pretty hard. I mean, the same 3 people shoot Vogue magazine all the time.
You want to get this one, brother?
So if you're trying to shoot Vogue, you have to really like create your own sort of like path. And so I took that on, like when I would post to Instagram or social media, I treated it like it was my portfolio. So my portfolio is my Instagram, and my portfolio is also my blog. Okay. And that's how we got a lot of people interested in working with us in terms of photography, because they were seeing what we were, you know, just doing in like our spare time,
right,
with no budget. Nobody was paying us to do it, you know, and so we were able to show how creative we could be with no money. And then people were like, well, if you can do that with no money, what can you do with a budget, you know?
And started giving us money.
And started giving us money, yeah. So you have to like, so in terms of like you said, showing your value as an artist and as a creative, you have to put that out there.
Okay.
You know, if you're gonna have Instagram as how you get clients, make sure that what people see is your work first. If I come to your page and all I see is a bunch of memes and like sometimes you post like a sketch or something, how am I supposed to get an idea of what you do?
Right.
You know, social media is free. You know, all you have to invest is your time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of creatives don't have a lot of money to put, you know, towards their art. So if you have time, then you should definitely make sure you're utilizing that to the best of its ability. And that's how, you know, we make sure that we show like we have ideas, you know, we have goals and we have a vision. We utilize social media to that aspect of it because it's very important.
Staying focused, because a lot of people in the creative world, they stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Okay.
they'll be posting, they'll be posting, and then next thing you know, they're like nothing's happening, and then they stop. And
Oh,
then it's
and
like
right.
that's when, you know, I could be
going.
searching on Instagram looking for a photographer at that point, and I'm like, now I don't see your post
Yeah.
because you stopped.
Right.
So
You gotta stick
it's-
with it.
You have
Yeah,
to
you
stay
gotta
consistent.
really stay.
You have to stay visible. That's what social media allows
That's a
people
good
to
word.
do is
Yes.
create a visibility for themselves. And if you're not visible, no one knows you're there. No one
Right.
knows what you offer. No one knows, you know, how to get in touch with you or, you know, what you're trying to do. So if you make yourself visible and you stay consistent, like you can build whatever you're trying to build, but you definitely have to just
Okay.
stay consistent.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Really quick technical question. How have you guys learned to arrange your pricing models based on who you're talking to as a potential client? Like, how does that work?
Oh man.
I would say it's more so you can, like videos, you can kind of go by viewership. Where is it going to be? Where's the end game? Is it going to be on your
Commercial
website?
products,
Is it
yeah.
going to be on TV? Stuff like that. You can kind of look at it like that. Even with photography, if it's going to be printed and put out in a magazine, you're going to charge them differently. You're not just, it's not living on social media where that's the only place you're going to see it.
Okay.
And I think the other thing for us that kind of clicked, we figured out, you know, so like we are very like right-brained people. All I know how to do is make things, you know, like pretty. That's it. I don't really have like a lot of business background or understanding of it. But I was like, we're not really making a lot of money. And like, because we weren't really, we needed to understand like there's a cost to do business. And like a lot of creatives don't understand, like, especially if you're working from home or if you have to rent a studio space, like you need to factor that into your pricing. It can't just be like some made up number, you know, like how much would it cost to do this? Oh, I don't know, like $50. No, you have to like really take into consideration, like how much money is it to keep your lights on? You got to pay for that Wi-Fi to talk to your clients back and forth. You got to travel, you know, you've got to do all, you got to get equipment. You know, sometimes people try to pay you money that's your equipment costs more than what they're trying to, you know, pay you. So it's like you got to really take these things into consideration.
And I mean, even like going back to what you were saying about the Mona Lisa, like you don't know the value of it. You just know what people say it's worth money. It's the same thing as like we realized when we were having clients that would pay us a small fee, they would want the most. And then we were like, okay. And it's, I read somewhere online that basically it was like if you go and buy a car off of a lot, like a new Mercedes, and it's brand new and you drive it off, you're not going to think anything about it. You're
Ask
brand new,
questions.
you know the money, where it's going. But if you go to a used car and it's the same car, but it's on a used lot and it's discounted, you drive out and you're
got
like, what's
questions,
wrong with it? Like, what's wrong
Right.
with this? And
Checking
we
it
learned,
good,
we
yeah.
learned at when I read that and we started talking about it, we were like, okay, let's change our pricing.
Yeah.
We started asking for more money. As soon as we asked for more money, yes, our previous clients dropped because they were like, whoa, we don't want to spend that money. But then we started getting new clients that wanted to spend that money.
That didn't even think about it.
Yeah, they were like, okay, you're worth that much? Okay. There must not be anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
So have you guys in the
4+ years you've been doing this, you're pretty much veterans at this point.
In the millennial world, yes,
Right.
you are.
Right.
In the grand scheme of
We're
our
phasing out, yeah.
So have you guys used any like budgeting apps or used any like services or tools? And you don't necessarily have to get into details of who specifically they are, but just what they are, because you mentioned really quickly that you guys are creatives. You're creative minded first and foremost,
Yeah.
and don't think of yourself at the onset as business owners.
Right.
But there has to be, to your point, some aha moment where you go, you know what? We've got to actually manage our damn money. Like
real,
what
yeah.
is so kind of speak to, what that process is like for you now.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely looked at automation services because we, aren't at a place yet where we can sort of like hire. Like I would love to hire somebody to manage us, but I don't want to just have some like intern do it, and I want to be able to like pay somebody. But until that happens, we looked at like automation services, and my favorite one is called WaveApps.com.
Yes.
And that's where you can automate your invoices. You can create estimates. It's very professional. You can even accept credit cards. So it just takes care of everything. It gives you like
It gives you your like year to date.
your
It gives you
your
all that
earnings
type
year
of
to
stuff.
date. So it kind of keeps all your financial stuff. If you're invoicing frequently, it's free for creatives, and their philosophy is basically creatives don't have that business mentality. We don't have a lot of
Yes.
money. So they make their money on like the credit card transactions,
Okay.
and that's how the web app itself is actually free. So if you get your clients to pay through the web app, it pays Wave, and then we all are
And
happy.
it's around the same price as like PayPal. So if someone
Right,
like you're
the
talking-
transaction fees are
the vendor
around
stuff like
yeah.
this is around the same price as
But
that,
that's
so.
my favorite one, especially, if you don't have that business mind, if you don't want to spend even 20, 30 minutes of your day doing invoicing, because that's, kind of time consuming.
Right.
That's my favorite way to go.
What about, so that's the business side. What about, and you guys have a unique perspective because you guys like managing personal finances as a couple. Like talk a little bit about how you guys have managed that in addition to how you
He
manage.
just gives me all his money. Like, that's really,
But here you
Okay.
go.
So are you the CFO?
right, yes.
Okay.
No, yeah, I mean, we just kind of like share everything at this point. I mean, when we left our jobs, we kind of just had the one salary. So our business money is our personal money, is our, it's just,
We go back and
all the
forth.
same,
I
yeah.
would say like if there's something I want, I get it, and then it's like okay, your turn is next, and so
You got like
I
that
got you
college
next, yeah, I got
possession
you.
arrow
Yeah.
thing.
Right,
bouncing
right,
back
right,
and
right,
forth.
right.
So if she's like I need an outfit for the blog, she'll get that, and then next month I'll get something I want. Because,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, we just go back and forth,
Yeah.
and
But a lot
sometimes
of it goes back into
yeah.
just the business. We just buy a lot of
Oh, yeah.
equipment. We buy a lot of web stuff, and
I'm really bad about that. I like to buy gear, so I'm really like, hey, let's just.
he told
we
me the
need
price of this tripod one time, and I was like, "What?
Excuse me, sir. That is not happening.
How many zeros does that have?"
Is it just a tripod? You know they sell those for $70, right?
Right at Best Buy, like
Excellent, excellent. We want to remind people you're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money. We're talking to Chris and Tasha about their creative business, Hey Bulldog Studios. We don't have much time, guys, left. But real quick, if somebody is thinking about selling their creativity, what's like, whatever that creative thing might be, what is like some of the 1, 2, 3 quick prerequisites for like stepping out and creating that line of business, even if they're not like quitting their job or, you know, jumping out as they say, but they're trying to like get the pieces together to like create some kind of something that'll give them income. What are some things that you would say they should do real quick?
Steve Harvey said it in a video, and I can't remember what it was. It was basically you gotta just jump. You gotta trust that either something's gonna be there or that you're gonna have a parachute. So you just gotta go and do it. And in that process, we've convinced a bunch of our friends to leave their jobs, even down to like I've been steadily getting on my mom. She started her own business, and
she did.
she's going into her 60s, and she started her own business. And
You just an influencer,
yeah,
Chris.
we're just like, you just got to do it. Well, I mean, we learned when she left her one job, it was basically like, do you pursue trying to find another job, or do you take that time and put it into a business?
Right.
And then that's what we kind of learned is like, we go back and forth sometimes. When times get rough, we're like, oh, should we just go get a part-time job to make it? And instead, we're like, no, let's just take that time and push forward. And then in the end, it's better. So you just got to, I would say the big thing is just let go and just do it.
Yeah.
And kind of don't think, if you're thinking, think about what you're trying to do, not the problems you have.
Yeah, I would just say make sure you have a vision. Maybe not necessarily like a 10-year business plan, but I definitely could visualize every single day like what I wanted to be doing. Like I visualized my photos in magazines. We visualized, movies that we wanted to make. Have some sort of like mood board. Write it down. Like just make it very vivid in your mind, like what you want your life to be like. Because when times get rough, like he said, you fall back on that and you think, okay, well, if I give up now, I'm not going to have that. And I know what life was like before when I was just sitting behind a desk, and I definitely know I don't want that. So you have to visualize what you want every single day. You need to do your research. Definitely you could take a leap if you want, but I did some research because that made me feel better about taking that jump. Especially in the age of social media marketing, between 2 to 3 years, I saw things were happening for people. And 2 to 3 years is going to pass anyway. So it's like, let's see what could happen if I really dedicate the time to this. And I did, and here we are. So
absolutely,
you just need to have a vision, focus, and just believe in yourself.
Very good.
I would rather fail at my own thing than fail at working for somebody else. That's how I feel about it. It's like
Excellent.
I would rather do that.
Yeah.
Excellent. And on that note, that's an excellent way to wrap it up, Chris. Real quick before we end the show, tell people where they can find more information about your work, where they can follow you, et cetera, et cetera.
You can follow. Hi. You can follow us on Instagram at Hey Bulldog Studios, or my blog, which is at The Glossier, if you want to see more of our editorial work.
How do you spell Glossier for the people
Glossier, TheGlossier.
Very good.
Yeah. And then our website, which is heybulldogstudios.co.
Okay.
Heybulldog.co. Yeah, there we go.
Come on, Tasha, get it together now. You're promoting your business here. Well, very good. Chris and Tasha, you guys offer just a unique perspective here on Manage Your Damn Money.
Thank you.
We want to encourage people who are listening and watching and remind you that you can always listen to past episodes of our show on Apple Podcasts. Just search Manage Your Damn Money and leave us a review to help us go up in the ratings. And find us also, if you don't have an iPhone, you can use SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Manage Your Damn Money. And if you have any questions or want to send us an email, you can always find us at our website, manageyourdamnmoney.com. Thank you guys so much for coming on this week.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Until next week and next time, be good with your money.
Peace.
Peace.